What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're actually going to go over Lucid stock, which I haven't covered in quite a while. So I'm going to go over how Lucid being added to the NASDAQ 100 could affect their share price going forward. And then make sure you guys stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to go over how Lucid could possibly top $50 again and what you guys need to consider given the SEC subpoena and convertible note issuance. So we're going to go over all that in this video. But before we actually jump into it, for those of you who are new here, my name is Evan, and I make videos that show you guys different ways of making money in the stock market. So if that interests you guys, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss when I upload. Also, I'd really appreciate anybody that hits the like button because it really does help out the channel. And with that out of the way, first I want to show you guys where Lucid's actually trading right now. And they're at about $40 in terms of their share price, and they're down about 2.3% today. And over the last month, if we look at the monthly chart, Lucid is still down about 15%. But I think with this news about the NASDAQ 100, Lucid might see an increase in their share price pretty soon. Because if you guys aren't aware, Lucid is going to be added to the NASDAQ 100 on December 20th. And this is basically a market cap weighted index that contains 100 of the largest non-financial companies listed on the NASDAQ stock market. And some other major holdings include Apple and Tesla. And there's also a host of other major tech companies, which basically makes the NASDAQ 100 a closely followed benchmark for growth investors. So for anybody who's invested in a lot of growth stocks over your life, I'm sure you guys are aware of what the NASDAQ 100 is. And I'm sure you guys know that it can really have a big effect on a stock's share price. The news of Lucid being added is likely going to boost a lot of trading volume in Lucid stock. And managers of different funds that track the NASDAQ 100 are going to be forced to buy into this EV company. And this forced buying on the part of fund managers could drive Lucid's stock price up for a short period. A lot of investors are actually thinking of buying ahead of these funds and hoping to front run their trades. So while this is big news for Lucid and it could really help their share price, I think it's going to be more of a long-term outlook for Lucid because they could see a short-term bump in their price. But with them being added to the NASDAQ 100, that basically shows that they could be a big company in the future and that they could have a lot of growth in the years to come. And fortunately for the people investing in Lucid, there's massive expansion potential, and electric vehicles are rapidly gaining favor among consumers across the world. And pretty much every day we're seeing analysts for different electric vehicles ramping up their growth estimates pretty much for the whole industry. It could be a small or a large electric vehicle company, and analysts are constantly bumping up their predicted price over a 12-month term. And just as one example, an analyst from Wedbush named Daniel Ives projects that EVs are going to comprise of 30% of global auto sales by 2030. And this is going to end up fueling a staggering $5 trillion market opportunity in the coming decade. So even if Lucid can capture even a small share of this enormous market, they could become a far more valuable business than they're at today. So like I mentioned, being listed on the NASDAQ 100 is typically good news and positive news for a company because index funds and mutual funds that track the NASDAQ 100 are going to have to add new entrants to their funds. So in turn, this boosts the value of shares and liquidity, giving companies more value to their stock in case they need to issue new shares to raise money. And that's where Lucid stock has actually been hammered recently following news of a convertible debt offering, as well as disclosure that the company was being investigated by the SEC in their SPAC merger. And that was with the blank check company Churchill Capital over certain projections and statements. But one other thing on the bright side is that the Lucid Air sedan actually won Motor Trend's Car of the Year for 2022, and CEO Peter Rawlinson claimed that a cheaper $70,000 Air sedan is coming by the end of next year. And with that mention of the $70,000 sedan, Lucid Motors CEO actually sees them producing a $25,000 electric vehicle in the next 4 years. And I think this is great news because we know that Tesla is constantly talking about releasing cheaper vehicles that are more available to the public. Because buying a Tesla right now, you have to have a pretty hefty income to purchase most Tesla vehicles. And I think that's the main thing stopping people from buying into electric vehicles is just the price right now. So if Lucid can get on board and maybe even put out a cheaper vehicle before Tesla can, because Tesla's not always up to date with their predictions on when they're going to release things, Lucid could really secure a big customer base before Tesla can swoop in and acquire those customers. And another thing that I think could put Lucid ahead even of Tesla, or at least as of right now they're ahead in this term, is the driving range of their vehicles. The Lucid Air Dream has an unprecedented 520-mile driving range. Now this is just insane because most gas-powered vehicles can't even go this far unless you're getting like 35 or 40 miles per gallon. Now the only hiccup to this car is that it's $169,000. Now, if Lucid does decide to release a $25,000 vehicle, they're probably not going to use exactly the same battery technology as the Lucid Air Dream, and so the vehicle isn't going to have as long of a range as 520 miles. But that's just the starting point. They want to get a vehicle out there that's cheaper that people can afford, and then eventually in the next 5 or 10 years bring down the price of battery packs and bring down the total cost of vehicles, because as electric vehicles become more widely adopted, the price is going to come down and we're going to see a lot more electric vehicles on the road. Even in the last 5 years, at least from what I've seen, I pretty much see electric vehicles every day now, as compared to 5 years ago. It was pretty rare to see one, at least where I live. The only thing I'm hoping is that Lucid doesn't end up becoming like a cheaper brand, because right now they're established as more of a luxury vehicle, especially with that price point of $169,000. But hopefully as they release cheaper vehicles, like next year releasing a $70,000 Lucid Air by the end of the year, and then hopefully in the next 4 or 5 years or so releasing a $25,000 vehicle, my hope is that they don't become cheaper in quality. I hope the quality is still there and they're still more of a luxury vehicle and they still hold up to their brand. Right now, a lot of people compare Lucid to Tesla, and they're often painted as being the next Tesla. But I think with where they're situated right now and the price of their vehicles, it's kind of hard to compete with Tesla, especially given that Tesla is so far ahead. Now, I think if you give them 5 or 10 years, of course Tesla is going to grow drastically in that time as well, but Lucid is going to have a lot more customers, and I think a lot more people are going to find out about Lucid and start investing in the company. That plus the fact that they want to offer cheaper vehicles, I think that gives them a lot more growth opportunity in the future. And you can see just how big electric vehicles are, given the fact that they have a market cap of about $62 billion, and they were briefly worth more than Ford Motor Company. Now, I don't want to make this seem like it's all positive for Lucid, because there are risks to investing in a company that's so early on in their stages of growth. And one thing that I think is really affecting a lot of people and preventing them from investing is that recently people found out that Lucid's ownership structure is 60% controlled by Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund. And in an interview, Rawlinson told HBO that he thinks that we have to look at the big picture here. He said that he thinks the entire world is facing an environmental crisis, and here we have a country which really has grown in its position through fossil fuel wealth, having the foresight to invest in this new green, environmentally friendly endeavor. So that is one of the risks, and one thing to take into consideration if you're investing in Lucid, because as a US company, you would think that everything owned by the company and all parts of the company are going to be in the US. And so it is slightly concerning if you're investing in Lucid thinking that they're totally in the US. Now, before I actually wrap up this video, I want to go over whether Lucid stock could top $50 again. Recently, they saw doubling in their gains from late October to November, jumping more than 106% since touting its first customer deliveries to a post-merger peak of close to $58 within the month. But since then, they plunged by 30+% from their post-merger peak, following broader market declines in response to macro headwinds worsened by the SEC subpoena and convertible note issuance. Lucid announced on Wednesday that they were considering a $1.7 billion at 1.25% convertible senior note issuance due in 2026 to fund new and existing eligible green investments. And these include the development of new energy efficient products and technologies. And the convertible senior notes were priced on Friday, so last Friday, at a conversion rate of 18.2548 shares per $1,000 principal, or conversion price of $54.78 per share in a private offering to qualified institutional buyers. And it's also worth noting that subscribers are going to have an additional option to purchase up to an additional $262.5 million principal amount of notes within 13 days from the initial issuance. And this transaction is expected to settle sometime early next week, which will bring net proceeds of more than $1.7 billion to the EV maker for funding their ongoing pipeline of growth strategies. But since announcing this, Lucid actually fell from mid-40s down to a low of 35.80, and last Friday they closed at 37.66. Now, this is pretty typical that a sell-off comes as a result of investors' fear of imminent share dilution, and in this case, upon conversion of these notes, there would be about 32 32 million additional shares in the future. Now, the main thing to keep in mind, which I think people kind of forget, is that the conversion of issued notes would not be viable until Lucid's share price actually surpasses $54.78. And so that still represents an upside of more than 45%. And if that were the case, Lucid's market cap would exceed $88 billion. And if you actually plug that in and do the math, 1.62 billion existing shares plus about 32 million additional shares, they would end up having a value of $53.72. So while that's not a 45% upside, it's still 42% from last Friday's closing price. And it's not like this is totally uncommon to see for a company to raise more money by selling more shares. We've seen it with other companies in the past. And depending on the company's growth plan, a lot of times it's actually a smart move to secure some money to fund different projects. So I think with Lucid being added to the NASDAQ 100 and with them raising more money to fund different projects, I don't think it would be too crazy to see Lucid actually hit $50 in the near future. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen in a week or two. Well, it could because they're going to be added on the 20th. I don't think they would maintain that price, but I think in the next 6 to 12 months, at least in my opinion, I think Lucid could get up to that $50 share price. So as of right now, that would be about a 25% increase with them trading at about $40 right now. But personally, I think with the plans that Lucid has, especially going into next year and trying to release a $70,000 vehicle, which is about 40% or less than the cost of their current Lucid Dream Air at $170,000 almost, that should help bring in more customers. And I think that's going to be really good for Lucid going forward. Now, for those of you who made it this far into the video, I want to hear what you guys think down in the comments about Lucid being added to the NASDAQ 100. Do you think this is going to be good for them? Or do you think this is going to have negative repercussions and it's going to bring Lucid's share price down? So let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. Also, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like because it really does help out the channel. And with that said, thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you back here in the next one. Bye.